My name's Haley, and today I'll be doing the Teachback subject on variables. Variables for me, when I first started learning how to code or learning any language, was one of the subjects that really clicked for me, and it really started to make more sense as soon as I figured out how to classify how I was coding, right? So variables are meant to help organize data. They're considered like excuse me, storage containers. I gave a few examples right here. These are ones that I used a lot in the last class, like towards the end. And those are the ones that I enjoyed using the most, to be honest. The string really was a struggle for me to learn at first, but I gave a few examples of how they would be correct. So, for example, this one. So when you do a variable, you want to make sure it's correct when you learn what these things do, right? Because each variable has its own direction or its own function. So for example, int one variable semicolon, this is incorrect because for that specific variable you cannot start with a number. So each variable has its own rules, right? Now on this one right here, oh, excuse me. This one right here, I wanted to make sure that we wrote correctly. That way we had like a side-by-side visual comparison, because that's how I learn visually, and it helps me. So this one is int variable, the number, and the semicolon. This is correct because it's creating the correct naming functions for this particular C++ variable, right? So in saying that, one of the number one tips I learned, and I'm just sharing, you don't have to use it obviously, but it's actually making flashcards. Flashcards for me, like I said, I'm a visual learner, so flashcards for me allowed me to memorize the specific variables, whether it be function, or whether it be string or whatever, and it makes me remember what it represents on writing accurate code. It may seem very simple and rudimentary, but for me, that was definitely a very simple way to break things down so that I understand how to give the correct code while I write code, or give the correct function or variable in order to code correctly. Another thing I like to bring up, for me, when I first started writing code, I had no idea what a syntax was. And I just kept getting this error, 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 you're not writing the right code, right? It's very frustrating. So I just wanted to throw some little pointers in there. Variable names are case sensitive, like a lot of code that we create, right? They also cannot start with a number. We already talked about that. So just to refresh, and you can't use symbols such as periods or dashes. Those are three things that I personally encountered that I had an issue with. So I just wanted to share that and hopefully get some relatability with my mistakes as well. I'm sure we've all encountered those things. So just as a refresh, I like to throw that in there because not only do we encounter our wins, but we also have our losses, right? Alright, so the last part is I threw in a little code example, and I wanted to break it down for you, but I also threw in some personal info. I have a turtle. I love her very much. She's awesome. So let's get started. So obviously always remember this, very, very important. You want to declare the string that we're going to use. We also use the number, so I wanted to give a code that really shows the examples that I already talked about so that we can further refresh on it. Like I said, this is probably something you've already seen before. So we want to declare that, and then in our output it comes out. Always make sure to close everything out. I love my one turtle. Let's break it down. We include the iOS library. It's needed to dictate the input-output in the code. So obviously if you don't have this, it's not going to come out, right? Then we have declare and initialize variable. Not only do you want to declare it, but you want to close off the statement so it initializes properly and pops out how you wrote the code. And lastly, you want to close it. Alright, so that it pops up like that. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. I enjoyed this Teachback moment for me. It gives me a lot of hope and just visually reminds me of how to write code. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much. Bye.